Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our 24th episode of Inspire Me at IBM Talks. Our today's guest is Bart Scholtissen. Bart holds a PhD in neuropsychology, but he has left the academic world and is now more himself than ever, according to his own words. He became a mindset expert, breath work guide, a Wim Hof Method Academy instructor, and a big nature lover. Bart has found his passion in bridging the gap between evidence-based and experience-based, with the mission to reconnect people with their own nature and thus make this world a bit more beautiful. Bart will share with us some of his life journey and we'll talk about the lost art of being you. So, without further ado, welcome, Bart.
Thank you.
And the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Marianne, for the invitation. I'm honored. And since we have about an hour, we can talk about a lot, or we can dive into specific topics. As Marianne already said, I'm always open on my mission to help people be themselves, to be open and vulnerable about who I am and what I do. And I just have a few short questions. As I already said before, like a few minutes ago, like I really like to see people in the most ideal situation. I would have wanted to be in the room with you together. So if you're open to taking on this invitation of putting your camera on so that I can see you as you can see me, there you go. That just makes this all the more personal to me. And if you, I don't know, if you're wearing your pajamas, or if you are maybe not wearing your pajamas or whatever, and you don't want to turn the camera on, that's fine too. Nothing mandatory here, but I've over the last, we live in special times, maybe even more than ever. And over the last 1.5 years, I've done a lot of these talks. And sometimes people just hide in the not putting the camera on, not putting the sound on, and that's obviously that's comfortable, that's easy. But if there is something that I help people with, is change your pattern, let go of your comfort zone a bit, and that might mean turning your camera on, and that might also mean that if you don't have this nice cool background that Jane, for instance, has, where you do not see anything else, then then maybe you see a cupboard or a table or whatever. But hey, this is life, so let's the more open and vulnerable I think we are, the more powerful it is. So that's actually what I want to talk to you about, and I do have some slides, so I will see whether I can find that somewhere and start sharing those. Yeah, let's see. But how can I press play here? Here, bloop, there we go. So now I can scroll through your images of you looking at me, but you can also see these slides if everything is correct. True? Right, I see fingers. Yeah. So yeah, the lost art of being you. It's never the same. I had this slide for a while, and I just want to invite you to be as open as possible. Do not have any expectations, and just be open. And like Marianne said, if you have questions, just pose them, and I'll do my best to either answer them during the session or maybe after. I have way too many slides for an hour, so at some point somebody will give me sort of a heads up, like, okay, we're progressing into Q&A now. But I think the first ones are the most important. And I also think that this title is what my life mission is about. Whether I am a Wim Hof Method instructor or whether I am outside, it's me helping by finding out who I am, because that's my journey too. I help other people by finding out who they are. So I want to take you on this journey. And since my office usually is not the box I'm sitting in right now, but the image you see there, nature is my office. I've chosen carefully to create myself the best possible office that I could. And so I want to take you on this journey. I want to take you on this journey about connection. Because if there is one thing that I think is missing in this world right now, it is connection. So on this journey of connection, I actually want to take you on a journey to reconnect with love. But there are some steps that you have to take before you can actually feel, experience, and share that love again. And this all boils down to me taking you on a journey into you. Hence the title, The Lost Art of Being You. Because you is the only thing that you can be. And sometimes I symbolize it like this, and sometimes I sort of symbolize it by drawing three hearts, so I did my best to find some kind of tree that sort of looks like a heart shape. If you've got a wild imagination, you can see a heart shape in this tree, and you can see that there are actually three trees. The middle one is you, and surrounding you is your tribe, which in this case might be all the people that are also listening to this keynote, that are also present in this current situation. And maybe your tribe, in another instance, can be your family or your social network. But in essence, in the center, there is always you. Everything starts and ends with you. And then surrounding you, there is your tribe. And if you go one step up, then obviously, in the end, you've got the entire world. And my vision and maybe also mission in helping you be you is that you see and understand and start feeling again that in order to take good care of your tribe, of your team, the company you work for, or the company you own, or the family you're part of, or the social network you're a part of, you need to be connected to yourself. You need to be you in the most authentic possible way that is. And when you have that, then you can only start really helping, caring, being of service to others, to your tribe. And if we all do this, then we work on connection. Then we work on inward connection first. And then from there, we work on outward connection in between people. And if we all start doing that, then almost automatically, we will become more aware and more conscious, less judgmental and less polarizing, and we will start taking better care of the world that we are so intrinsically part of. So that is my mission. And in essence, that sums up everything I talk about these days with people, be it online, be it live. So if the power would fail, like if the power would fail on my PowerPoint now, then this is what you need to know. There is always you in the middle. Whether it's private, whether it's work, there is always you. And if you take good care of yourself, you can take better care of the people around you. And if we all do that together, we will take better care of the place we live on. But I want to ask you a question, like, where is your focus of attention mostly? So is that mostly outward, mostly towards your tribe or maybe even the world? Or is it also focused towards you? So think about this, and if you want to share that in the comments, then we can get a nice thread going, and we could open a discussion about this. But this to me wasn't always clear. It wasn't always a given, because I was back in the days when I still was actively practicing that PhD in neuroscience and neuropsychology that I have. I was mainly pleasing out of expectation my tribe, so my colleagues, the students that worked for me, and not so much taking care of myself. Yeah, so share your questions in the chat, and then we're open and free to discuss as willing. So I didn't know this. I didn't see that this actually is how nature works. How other species, how other mammalian and non-mammalian species, how plants work. They are all connected. But I wasn't connected. I wasn't connected with myself, so I could only, out of this pattern of expectations that I created in my head, I was pleasing others and not taking care of myself. Whereas for instance, if you're in a plane, and sometimes it still happens these days, but if you're in a plane and you get into this air sag or something, and the things drop out of the ceiling, what do you do first? You first put on your own mask so that you're better able to help others. If you are doing a first aid course, the first thing you learn there is make sure that you are safe first so that you can help others. If I take people as a Wim Hof method instructor out into the ice or out into hot nature, ice cold nature, I first need to take care of myself so that I can take care of others. But yet in this modern Western society that we live in, that we have created together, we're at large, we're only busy with pleasing others instead of taking care of ourselves. So think about this. How many minutes a day, and there are like 3,600 minutes in a day, how many of those do you spend on self-care, on self-development, and not only on pleasing others? So take that into the next 45 minutes or something, and I would really like to chat with you about that. So what I've learned over the last years, at first, I was in this zone. I started studying psychology way back a long time ago, and I started learning to please others and others and others and others, and not taking care of myself. And I thought that this was what life was all about. Until back in 2013, 2014, I sort of presented myself with a major burnout. I was sort of at the top of my game, and I was only pleasing others at the game of being an associate professor and pleasing others, teaching others, but nobody was helping me take care of me. And I crashed big time. My body pulled emergency brakes time after time after time, but my ego was so strong that it just kept on going and going and going because I had goals, targets, deadlines. I had to please others because I felt and thought that was my mission in life. My burnout, if it taught me one thing, is that life is one big learning opportunity. And we are never done learning. So when I embraced that for myself, I started opening up to life more. I started going beyond the fear of not being good enough, not being socially accepted or whatever. So all these limiting beliefs in my head, I started opening up to, okay, I can learn new stuff every day, every second. I've got a choice. And by opening up to this learning experience, I started recognizing that most of our day is built up out of patterns. And you might recognize that yourself. For instance, if you check the situation that you're in right now, most likely you're sitting on something. And I think 9 out of 10 times that will be a chair. But I'm curious about who of you actually thought about, oh, this is a chair, and we sort of defined that this is a thing that we can use to sit on. And so I put my bottom on there, and then I'm going to be in this seated position. And that's what I'm going to do while listening to this talk or interacting with this guy somewhere else in the world. That's one pattern. You probably are all wearing clothes. I'm not scrolling through the videos that are on now, but most likely, but that's a pattern too. And most of you will probably be wearing too much clothing for the temperature that the room in which you are is actually demanding of you. So in my case, I'm in the attic here. It's pretty fresh, so I've got a shirt and a hoodie on, and that's okay. But actually, I could do it way less. But this clothing, it's also a pattern. Everything is a pattern. Check your feet, for instance. What's on your feet? Most likely shoes. That's a pattern too. You probably didn't even think about wearing shoes or putting them on. Maybe somebody of you is wearing no shoes, is bare feet. So your entire day is built up out of patterns or Crocs. Yeah, well, you could consider those as shoes too. But you always have a choice. And if you become aware and more aware of the patterns that build up your day, then you also become aware of the choice that you have to change these patterns, to disrupt them. Okay, Paige, wonderful. I'm barefoot too, by the way, at this time and point. And I'm not sitting on a chair. I'm sitting on my knees on a yoga pillow on my bed. So that's not a chair. And I've actively, consciously chosen to do it like that because it keeps me moving. And this body that I'm in is meant for moving. It's not meant to be in a sedentary position the entire day. But we do need patterns because if we wouldn't have patterns, if we wouldn't have automated processes, then everything we would do would take up conscious attention and energy. And that's a lot. That would take up a lot of our energy. So if you compare it to like the biology that you are, your brain, where all of these pattern processes take place for a large part, it's like 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20 to 25% of your energy consumption. And if it would do more things in a non-automated fashion, then it would consume even more energy. So you would lose or need to spend more energy there. And evolution or whatever has created us up until this point has made sure that we are as energy efficient as possible. So that's why we created patterns. But those patterns, even though they might have been created with the best intentions, might not be serving you at this time and point anymore. So have the openness of mind to disrupt the patterns that make up your day. And I've made sort of a big game out of that. And so every day I do something to disrupt my patterns. For instance, a lot of people know me as being a Wim Hof method instructor, and they think that Wim Hof method instructors only live in ice cold conditions. But I love heat. So, but I do shower cold. So, but every now and then, after if I've showered cold for a couple of days, I know what it does to me. I know what the physiological and mental effects are of it. I need to switch that pattern too again and just take a real nice hot shower and then get out. And then when I get out of that hot shower in a cold bathroom, I will get cold. And my mind will tell me, hey guy, why didn't you shower cold? Because it works and you feel energized and you feel good and awake. But then that's my mindset game. So I continuously disrupt patterns, even patterns that work nicely for me. And I'm very curious of maybe of the fact that maybe you are disrupting your own patterns too in order to live. Because we're living, and a while ago I heard somebody say, you need like motivational words. I've got 3 words for you. You will die. So those 3 motivational words, they stuck with me and they helped me to realize that I can just sort of die in slow motion, not live, and just die a bit every day waiting for that final end that is going to come at some point. Or I can switch the game around and I can actually start living, actually do things that scare me, like public speaking, for instance. You might not think about this like this, but one of my biggest fears when I was still working in the academic world in university was public speaking. And I did everything I could to sort of get out of the opportunity or the situation that I had to do public speaking. And now I love doing this. So I love talking and connecting to people I do not know, preferably in front of a live audience, but in these crazy times, that's not always possible, although it's becoming more and more possible, luckily again. And so then we'll just use this cool technology that we have created with our brains and be vulnerable, be open to connecting with new people. So I continuously change and disrupt patterns that I observe. But then first, you have to be aware of those patterns. And what I also think is super, super, super important, one of the biggest lessons I had in the last years is do not believe everything you think. Because we have thoughts, and it is not that we are our thoughts. And especially, also do not believe anything I am saying to you today. Because if you would take this for granted, if you would just, listen to me and take everything that I am saying as the truth, and that would be very, very easy, but also, not the right way. because everything I'm saying is just my view and my opinion on what I think makes this world go round, makes this entire playground, this entire circus that we're in work. So please don't believe anything I say, but question yourself. The only intention I have is to plant seeds, to provide you with seeds, and you choose whether you want to water those seeds and make it grow into a beautiful plant, or whether you want to keep those seeds and maybe water them in 2 years or 3 years or 5 minutes or whatever, or maybe you just pass them on or not do anything with them. So don't believe anything I say today, but ask questions. And I'm very, very curious about who you are, because I can talk about the lost art of being you, but that means that I need to find out who you are, or you need to find out who you are. You need to find out who you want to be if you're not already fully sure about what you are. And the cool thing is, I was at Maastricht University doing a live lecture, and I also had these two slides in my lecture, and or in my talk, or whatever you want to call this. And then what somebody said, yeah, but I don't fully want to know who I am or who I want to be. I said, okay, wow. Could you share some more insight about that? And this person, he said, like, yeah, because if I fully know what I am, there is no room left to improve, and there is no room left to grow. Yeah, that's wonderful. But you're on this journey of finding out who you are and who you want to be, and whether you love you. So, and when you're ready with learning, you can sort of evaporate into the next level, whatever comes after this physical life form here. And if that's nothing, that's nothing. And if that's something, it's something, but we're only going to find out afterwards. So we have to be on this journey of self-discovery, and sharing your discoveries, sharing your stories is super important. Because back in the days when we were all living on the savannas and the plains and the tundras and I don't know what, we were living in this tribal form. We shared stories. And those were the days that this was the only way that we could learn. And back years ago, when my grandparents were still alive, I sat down with them on a regular basis and they shared stories with me. They shared their insights and their stories with me. And that's why I love sessions like this, because we have the opportunity to share stories. And you all have stories worth spreading, worth sharing. And your story might inspire somebody else to share their story. And if we all do that, then we start taking better care of each other. And then we start inspiring each other to provide in creating a better world. But this all happens, this can only, let me rephrase that, this can only happen when you know what you are, or when you at least open up to what you are. And the bottom line in that is, the question that is here in the frame now is, do you love you? Do you love you? Or are you willing to go in that journey of loving you? And it might be a hard question, but maybe you want to share some insights on that too, and share some part of your journey. And if somebody feels like I want a microphone now, then I think Marian will put you on, and I will be fully open to going into a discussion about that. And if it feels safe not to do that, then that is what it is. But do you love you? And so if there are a lot of people in front of me live, I can ask them to raise hands. You could also do that, like with your raise hand button. There must be people in this crowd that say, like, yeah, I love myself. But there will always also be people, and sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 70-30, that will not say that will not have opened up to themselves and discovering what they are. Thank you, Susanna. Opening up to themselves about what they are and whether they love themselves. I see a lot of chat things coming in now. But Marianne, you need to manage that a bit. So so if you want to share something, then please do.
you can continue.
Okay, cool.
We have some reactions to whether we love ourselves. So um, I think one for all is sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. But that at least makes you aware of the choice you have, of the fact that you can actually love yourself, that you can actually take care of yourself, and that you, by taking better care of yourself, can take better care of other people. And I think all of this, and yeah, this is something I really would, if that's possible, like to go into a discussion with you. This all revolves around stable leadership. And I will explain, because stable leadership does involve love. And the crazy thing, I'll just go back to the last slide, stable leadership. The crazy thing is that we humans, we appear to be the only species that follows unstable leaders, unstable herd leaders. We are a mammalian social species. We live in herds and tribes and communities, whatever you want to call it, whatever definition you want to use, or we're seldomly solitary. So, like other mammalian and non-mammalian species, we are herd species. But we are the only ones that follow unstable leaders. Think about it. Look at the world that we are in. And to dive a little bit deeper into this, what happens when in the rest of nature, because this is nature, we are nature. What happens if in the rest of nature a leader is not stable anymore? It's real easy. The two things can happen. That leader gets kicked off its throne, of its leadership position, or it gets eaten, and by that gets kicked off out of its throne. And that's a natural way. But we as humans sort of evolved ourselves out of that, and we decided to create a situation which might not be sustainable, in which we listen to unstable leaders. And if you take that one step further, are you your own stable leader? So are you? Because if you look at the biology of things, you are a collection of about 50 billion cells. And those 50 billion cells, think about this, they're not even touching each other, because there is always a little open space between each cell. They're not connected to each other. Yet you manifest as a human being wearing clothes that also are composed out of little tissue that is not touching each other. This is crazy. But yet we are leading, so you are leading yourself. But are you a stable leader? So how can we start listening and start creating a world in which stable leadership as a species is leading for us again, if we can't even be our own stable leader? So how can we love each other if we do not trust ourselves and do not respect ourselves and each other? And from that, let love be there. And I use the word love here a lot, but you can also replace that by positive energy or connection or whatever. But in essence, I think it boils down to love. So that's why I use that word so much. So, but you do need trust and respect for that love to flow, because that positive energy is always there. But it might be hiding in plain sight. But if you do not trust yourself, if you do not respect yourself for you being you, or at least being on that journey of finding out who you are, and how can you love yourself? So why am I telling you this story? And yeah, what, why I am sort of this pop up the entire time of questions somehow distracting me a bit. So when I stop saying something, I see a line in the top of my image. Doesn't really matter. I'll get back to focus on my story. So why am I telling this story? Who am I, and how did I find out how to love myself? Well, this was me a long time ago. Even though my name is Bart, and back in the days when I used to have hair, I even had Bart Simpson's haircut, because this is Professor Frink from The Simpsons, and I guess the entire world knows The Simpsons. But this is actually a figure from that comic series that that sort of depicts me better in a better way in the situation that I was still in when I was teaching at university. And actually, that finger is also very true. I was wearing a white lab coat because I was in labs a lot, doing research a lot. I was this fucked up neuroscientist, so to say, and I was teaching. If I was not shitting my way out of teaching, but then I had to stand in front of classes and do lectures and stuff about neuropsychiatric disorders, and I was teaching knowledge out of books, theoretical knowledge. And my thoughts at that time and point were that this truth is the truth. So I was teaching it like that with the best intentions, but little did I know that this was just a small aspect of the truth. So when a couple of years ago, I was Googling and I found this image. That, that's me without the glasses, but with a little bit of hairdo and like the white jacket and stuff. And then after some, I've spent 12 years in the academic world, which is a high performing organization with very slow changes, a lot of fear and control. And I sort of presented myself with a big burnout, as I said. And during that period, I realized that there are only a couple of things that are really, really certain in this lifetime that we are living here. It's one is you get born. You get born into this body, into this life. Two is, as said before, you will die. This body will stop functioning at some point. And for all of you, I hope that will be in many years. But you never know. And in between being born and leaving this planet again, leaving this physical body again, change is the only certainty we have. And like Darwin already said, survival of the, in his quote, famous quote, survival of the fittest, he didn't mean survival of the ultimate fittest person or species or entity, most likely meant survival of the fittest, meaning survival of that one who is most adaptable to change. And the way you approach change on a day-to-day basis creates your reality. And when I realized this, and when I realized that this entire life is one big learning experience, I started embracing change. I started working on mindset, working on reconnecting myself with my inner nature. I started my own company in which I started guiding people one-on-one, doing team processes. I started playing around a lot more. So, my like bottom right, I'm still very interested in the brain, but I started enjoying life more. I was not fully into the brain again. I started seeing that I had to get out of my head. I started to start playing again, start to give myself challenges, maybe even like bottom of top left, play even more than my own kids do. So I was on the top of that rock sooner than my youngest daughter was. I started enjoying the playfulness of my kids again, started going back into nature, playing around, whether it's on a canal boat in the center of Amsterdam or somewhere out in nature. And I met Wim, the Iceman, and he taught me back in 2015 to embrace fear. So Wim, sometimes when you see him in videos, he screams "fuck fear," but I sort of transferred this into let's embrace fear, because if you just keep on yelling like "fuck fear," then you push it away. But if you embrace fear, if you sit with your demons, then you can create this growth opportunity, and then you start living more fully again. And that's what the ice cold temperatures in which I put myself and I still put myself in are teaching me. The photo with Wim was taken on top of Sneska, and it was minus 25 degrees at the time we took that photo. But we were fine and we were having fun. We were fully focused. So that's when I started truly embracing the power of what we actually are if you go beyond the limiting beliefs that are in our head. So in this world, which nowadays even more maybe looks like this, like 24/7 control and stress and work harder, and if you do not adhere the rules, then this and this will happen, fear. You know, I figured out that I was afraid that I was heavily domesticated. And I think that is what we have done as well. That in this process of us, becoming the human form that we are now, we have domesticated ourselves. We have not only domesticated wolves into chihuahuas, but we have also domesticated our primal being into the sort of childish looking humans that we are now. And we call ourselves Homo sapiens, the thinking man. But maybe our more natural state is Homo ludens, the laughing, playful man. And the more you embrace that, the less domesticated you become. And I think you probably, I'll just slide it into your reality at this time and point. I think you've all heard of your comfort zone and your challenge zone. You like in your comfort zone, the easy stuff happens. And in your challenge zone, maybe something exciting, but not too scary happens. But you have to use conscious effort to leave your comfort zone. Seek discomfort to grow. And maybe something that you see beyond the scope of that challenge zone in your fear zone is like something that you might actually find really, really interesting, but you're so afraid of doing it that you will like, no, that's never ever gonna happen. But if this is your way of dealing with the things that you meet, the change that comes, yeah, into your life on a day-to-day basis, then comfort kills ambition, and you will never live out your true potential, because we can do and be so much more than we can ever think of. So we can, we can choose to be nature again, be the variety, the diversity that nature is. But we can only do that once we know that we have a choice. We have a choice to see and observe our patterns and go beyond, live beyond that fear. And like my youngest daughter here, you know, just get on that swing and live and take those shoes off, even though there's muddy spaces there, and just live more. Seek discomfort. Because if you seek discomfort out of self-love, you will start growing. Take those shoes off, like said before, and maybe even at night, maybe even when it's cold, just embrace that thing that you might be fearing, that you might think is awkward or is strange, and see what it teaches you. See what you learn, and see how you can go from being overly domesticated to rewilding yourself a bit, becoming reconnected with what is there, with what has been there all along. And then cool things like walking up cold, snowy mountains with hardly any clothes on become possible all of a sudden, which rationally might not be possible in your mind. And what happens then is that when you grow your comfort zone by challenging yourself, by seeking discomfort every day a little bit, you will start growing your comfort zone. And then the next time that you are in your comfort zone, which has grown, that the challenge zone is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And then all of a sudden, the impossible becomes possible. So, what do you want? Are you living your lives? Do you want to be the victim of your life, or do you want to be the responsible one of your life? It's your choice. And this is mindset. This is the mindset that creates your reality. And for that, we need connection. And I was just checking the time. I think it's 15 minutes almost past the hour. So I've been going at it for about 45 minutes, and maybe this is a nice time to open up the discussion and start connecting beyond me just talking. How about that?
All right. Thanks, Bart. So let me maybe start with a question in the chat, and let's see how that goes. We have, yeah, 80 more minutes.
Hmm?
So first question, I'll just go top down. And in the meantime, if you have any, feel free to use the chat to post them, or you can then, unmute yourself and share. We have a question from Yulia. She asks, how do you know the boundaries where you starts and end
Yeah.
after years being influenced by others? How can you be sure you are actually taking care of yourself already? Maybe like two questions together.
Yeah, that's a really good and really hard question too. Well, by with embracing, for instance, embracing the what was in my third or fourth slide, the fact that you are not your thoughts. because our brains do their best to make like this complete picture of stuff in the most easy possible way, the least energy consuming way. So if you feel the fear, if you feel friction, anxiety, fear, then you know that you can learn something there. So if you actively expand your comfort zone and choose to seek discomfort every day, that's how I started finding out about this. I started taking on things that I was actually afraid of. I started taking on challenges that I was, that I was afraid of. But I found out that I actually was fearing the fear and not so much the action, the thing that I thought I was fearing. So once you realize that you are not your thoughts, but you have thoughts, then you create yourself with an opportunity again. Then you've got a choice again. And then you can choose to be either the eye in the storm or part of the storm. And in the eye of the storm, just for you, for those of you who are never in a storm, there is no wind in the eye of the storm, so there is calm there. And from that calm, that nowness, that eternal moment of now, you can choose more consciously what you want to do, which part of the storm you want to be, yeah, well, you want to interact with, and as a matter of fact.
All right. So let me bring one more. I will now go to the bottom of the questions because I think there is like a sort of common type of question, and I'm
Okay.
interested in it. Sorry, blame me for that. So, uh, I think I'll speak from actually maybe more people on this call, and that's how to start the training to be able to stand freezing temperatures.
Mhm.
Plus, additional question is like, a little bit more about the kinds of discomfort we can pursue in the name of self-love, cold exposure or
Yeah.
others.
Cool.
So maybe some
Uh,
tips.
yeah, well, in essence, like embracing the cold might be one of the hardest things to do, but becoming aware of patterns, what I was talking about at the beginning, and becoming aware of those and then choosing to break them will help you on this journey of self love too. So, for instance, if you've got shoes on, take them off. And if you have an outside area that you can put your bare feet on and feel and reconnect with feeling, because I think the art of knowing is in the not knowing, but in the reconnecting with feeling. So, with your heart and your gut feeling. And then you can start also start incorporating cold exposure, for instance, into your sort of self-love training program or whatever you want to call it. And that can start very, very small with, for instance, taking off your shoes without the fear of getting cold feet. Because if you let go of the fear of the attachment to that fear, then you can actually open up to a new state of being. And if you open up to that new state of being, then you become creative again. Then your body actually starts doing what it's supposed to do, generate heat to warm that cold area. You're not a reptile, you're not a crocodile or a lizard or something, you're a mammal. So heat comes from the inside. And the first time I was standing next to an ice bath, um, I got scared. I thought I would die. And I had been practicing with cold exposure for quite a while. I started out practicing with cold exposure end of 2014, beginning of 2015. I was a participant in a study in which 3,000 people showered cold in the month of January 2015. Study got published. You can find it online and read about it. Really, really extraordinary results and improved quality of life in people that actually embrace the cold. For first 4 or 5 days were hell. I got out of that shower cold. And on day 5 or 6, I can't exactly remember anymore. All of a sudden, I get out of that cold shower and I am warm. And I was just flabbergasted. My mind was blown. Like, how did I forget to turn the tap cold? And I checked. No, it was cold. So looking back, I think happened at that time and point is I stopped resisting something I couldn't change. I stopped fighting and I started accepting the situation at hand, which in this case was a cold shower. And by that, getting out of my head, letting my body know what it's supposed to do, create warmth because the situation is cold, I started tuning into feeling my body again. So that were the first steps that helped me become more aware of what cold can actually teach me, what nature can actually teach me, what I can actually teach myself if I go beyond the limiting beliefs that are in my head. And if you're really interested in pursuing this journey with cold, then give yourself the time. Not jump into an ice cold pool immediately, but build up gradually. Start by giving yourself like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to at every time you shower and a little bit colder for a little bit longer. And see what that does to you. See how that feels and use your breath to control your state of being. So if you can control your breath, and I didn't really go into that, but I think breathing is one of the biggest things that helped me be in the present moment, be the eye in the storm. If I have control over my breathing in a stressful situation, I control how I deal with the stressful situation. So find somebody that can help you, either online or live, with gaining more control over your breathing. Because that is the connecting thing between your inside and what happens outside. And if you control that in a cold situation or in a warm situation or in a stressful situation, you control your mind and you control the situation, or at least the way you deal with the situation, be it cold or some other stressor.
All right. So let me pick one more from the chat.
I hope this
Uh,
answers the question, by the way, a bit.
uh, yeah, all right, cool. Some thumbs up. So I think it does. So this is interesting one. Like going back a little bit in the topics. Sorry if I'm, jumping all around, but
All good.
whatever. So I put myself first, but in the eyes of others, I'm being considered as selfish.
Yeah.
Do you come across such assumptions?
Yeah. Yeah. That happens a lot. And so when I talk about this topic with people, then I get this remark a lot. But this probably says more about that other person and that other person's capability of loving themselves without the judgment and the polarization of pointing that finger into the direction of the other, which in this case was happening. Because if you take care of yourself and somebody says, yeah, but you're egoistic or you're self-centered or whatever, um, I don't believe in that concept anymore. Um, but I do meet people that still say that to me. But I never have the intention to hurt anybody or to. But if I take care of myself first, then that might change patterns in other people too. So I understand the question, I understand the remark, but I think it says more about the state of being that other person is in than the state of being you are in. And the more you practice with this, the more you play around with this, the less anxious or fearful you become of what others say about you. And if we all do this, I truly, truly believe that this world will become more diverse, like it's meant to be. And if I look at nature, nature teaches me a lot. If I look at nature, I see diversity. I see lots of different entities, species, beings, whatever. And they are all themselves. And they're not worrying too much about what, like an elephant is not worrying about what a zebra might think of him. No, they're just themselves. And by that, they can provide for themselves in their state of being, or they can provide for the others in their first line, in their first tribe. If you remember the U tribe world visualization I did.
Right. I'll take one more from the chat and maybe combine it with the cold exposure because I think that resonates a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the greatest self-discovery moment for you? Like you've talked about a couple, but maybe if you look at the cold
Yeah.
exposure, and I've experienced that, but if there should be like one thing that you think, it helps to literally like turn off and turn on, or whatever self-discovery moment it comes to your mind, what would that be?
Um, well, like I already said, maybe that first time that I got out of a cold shower warm, that was a very, very, for me, big epiphany, mind-blowing experience. in which I had to let go of the limiting belief that a cold shower would freeze me and that I was not trained or prepared enough to do this. And I think the second time, that which I already mentioned, was really, really life changing to me, was when I was standing in front of my first ever ice bath. Because cold showers are one thing, an ice bath is the next level, and after that, a lot of other things can happen too. But when I was standing there, and this was actually, and we don't advise people that want to become Wim Hof method instructors this now, but back in the days when I did the training, my first ice bath was on day one of my training becoming a Wim Hof method instructor. And I was standing next to this inflatable pool filled with ice, and like the old-fashioned Rolodexes, you probably know from I saw my life spinning in front of me. I thought, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna step. I've made this choice. I'm gonna step into this ice bath, and then I'm probably gonna freeze over. I'm gonna turn into an ice lolly or something. But somehow something inside of me said, "But this is what I have to do." So I somehow overruled my ego, telling me, "Don't do this." I sort of overruled it, and some deep innate force in me said, "You have to do this." And that's when I flipped the switch inside of me and I got in, I sat down, and at first, obviously, my body freaked out and was like high breathing, like hyperventilating. But somehow, again, I heard myself say, "You chose to get in here. You've got this." And then I regained control of my breath. I became more calm. And usually this happens within 30 to 90 seconds. And I felt my body like a big fire exploding inside of my body. And that totally blew my mind. So by letting go of the expectations, opening up to the opportunities, embracing what is, so not thinking or telling myself, oh, I'm in a warm bath or something, I let my body do what it's supposed to do. And the body knows. Your body knows what to do. It's just that we overrule it with our minds, and that we fuck up here. And that's why actually this session was called Unfuck Yourself, the lost art of being you. I had to say that. Eh? But so that's when you let go of that fear and you open up to the possibility, you take that leap of faith that you might actually be able to fly, then you start flying. That doesn't happen here. It happens when you let your body do what it's supposed to do.
All right. I think that was a great thing that we can close the session with.
Cool.
I think we covered also all the questions. So thank you very much, Bart. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time and sharing with us. Uh, Thanks to everybody for joining us. I hope you had a great time. We are recording this session and we will be sharing it in all kinds of places. So uh, we'll let you know. Thank you very much again. Have a great rest of the day
Thank
and
you.
see you next time.
Enjoy. Bye bye.
Thank you.